It's 380 Thursday, featuring a 380 that most of you probably have never heard of. And we're going to do a comparison with this Bul Armory Mini Cherokee with a couple of the more popular guns. Stay with me. Bul Armory, based in Israel, makes some interesting firearms and good quality stuff at a reasonable price. I've done videos on a couple. I'll post them up here throughout the video and links to those others. Mainly 1911 style. They do 2011 style. And they also have done, in the past at least, some CZ75 sort of clones or knockoffs. And one of which is the Mini Cherokee. Now, 380 is becoming a more popular caliber, specifically for those who are maybe a little recoil sensitive. Technically, it's 9mm short, but still it has obviously less power, lighter bullets, and so forth. The Mini Cherokee is sort of based on the Cherokee, and again, it's a CZ75 type of design. There's a whole bunch of them out there. 10 Folio makes a compact, which is relatively similar to this. The Mini Cherokee, you're only going to find a few used ones around. You're not going to find any new ones, at least not that I'm aware of. So I did pick this up used with 3 14-round magazines, and these are effectively CZ75 magazines. So as I said, it's polymer frame and typical CZ75 type. Very little in the way to grab onto in the way of slide serrations, because the slide runs inside the frame instead of outside. So there's not a lot of real estate to grab hold of. And if the hammer is down, it is, well, decock it here. If the hammer is all the way down, then you've got the resistance of the hammer as well as the recoil spring to cock. If the hammer is all the way up, it is a little bit easier. Again, metal magazines, and my CZP01 magazines fit in here. It will not work the other way around because these are just a little bit shorter than the P01, which you have here. Theoretically the same capacity, 14 rounds in my P01, 14 rounds in the Bul Mini Cherokee, but yet the magazine is a little bit shorter for the Bul. A single slot pick rail, which you don't find on the 10 Folio compact. 3-dot sights, white front rear, or white in the front, 2 dots in the rear. Not sure what pattern these are. I'm not sure how that even replaces in the front. Didn't delve into that a lot because I'm not going to change the sights on it. Does have a manual safety on it, and when it's in full cock position, trigger's not going to move. Down it to half cock, put the safety on. Got a little bit more movement of the trigger, but still not going to fire. There's not a decocker on this, so if you want to decock, you have to keep it pointed in a safe direction, press the trigger to start the hammer to move, and as soon as the hammer starts to move, and I'll get it past half cock here, release the trigger and carefully lower the hammer. Now you're in double action. Double action first shot or double action trigger pull on this is a little heavy. It's just north of 11 pounds, but it is smooth. A little bit of stacking toward the end, but again, you can double action. You can second strike it if you need to. Single action comes out a little bit better. Comes out to 3.5 pounds. There's a little bit of, a fair amount of take up, and crisp, not much creep. There's a little bit of movement, but there still is over travel on it. So not the best, even the 3.5 pounds, and I really don't like the heavy hook on the trigger. Now I know that centers your finger on it, not the way I like to shoot the gun, but it works for a lot of people. I much prefer a semi-curved or a straighter trigger, but certainly it keeps the finger in the right place. Slide stop lever is one side only, and nothing is reversible for the right side. The magazine catch may be reversible, but I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. Plain old, looks like a stainless steel barrel. Really not a whole lot to talk about. Polymer frame. It's not super grippy. It's not sandpaperish. Certainly not as much as you'd see on some other pistols, but the back strap is a combination of checkering at the lower part and side-to-side strike or vertical striations to prevent side-to-side movement of the hand at the top. Some people don't like finger grooves. With my plain old medium-sized hands and the 14-round magazine in place, it does feel good in the hand. It does work. Good high undercut on the back of the trigger guard so you can get a good high grip on it. Not super low bore access, but again, bore access on something like this is a little bit overrated. I think I mentioned single slot pick rail on it. It is a rather heavy gun, and it's also worthy of comparing this with something else that I just picked up. And in fact, we did a review on this not too long ago, the Glock 25, which is a Glock 19 size 380. So how does that compare to the Bul Armory? Well, put the Bul on top of the Glock, and they are just about the same size. Look at them from the top, and you see that the Bul and the Glock are about the same. Now, the Glock has a slightly longer barrel, but the overall length is about the same, maybe just a little more when you add the beaver tail in on the Bul. When you look at the width of the gun, though, huge difference between the Glock 25 and the Bul Mini Cherokee. Better contours on the Cherokee grip-wise, but it's definitely a wider firearm. And about the same height by the time you get the 15-round mag. However, in the Glock magazine does protrude, so it makes it the whole package a little bit, just a hair taller. And a weight difference on it. The Bul Armory weighs 31.8 ounces with 14 rounds plus one more in the chamber, 90 grain ammunition. The Glock is 28.3 ounces. That's 15 plus one. So you saved more than 3 ounces and added 1 round of ammunition to go to the Glock. Another popular comparison would be the Ruger Security 380, and it's a little bit smaller than the Bul. If you look at it from the top, the Ruger is definitely a little bit shorter. Barrel's just a little bit shorter. And again, this is a hammer-fired gun. The Bul is a hammer-fired gun. The Glock is a striker-fired. Maybe a better front sight on the Ruger, and a much lighter gun. The Ruger is 25.5 ounces, again 15 plus 1, and look at it from the back. And again, the Bul Armory is about the same height when you get the 15-round magazine in the Ruger, the 14-round magazine in the Bul, but the Bul is also just a little bit wider. So the question, of course, is, how did it shoot? Of course, you know we had to take it out to the range, and it's light enough. I'm shooting with my right hand on lighter recoiling guns right now. Still not going to do it with anything. It's going to have more of a heavy recoil. But at 12 yards, of course, it's right on. Managed to go ask Alice, run the plates, and ran the 3-inch plate, and it worked just fine. This is all using factory 90 or 95 grain ammunition. Moved on out to 25 yards, and didn't have any problem at 25. We'll get to the problem I did have here in just a minute. But at 25, even the 6-inch head flipper on the black torso there wasn't any real challenge with the Bul Armory. So we took the Mini Cherokee out, as you know I'm going to do. Now a lot of people are going to say it's not a 50-yard gun. Well, hey, I still got to know what it'll do. Will it shoot at 50 yards? And maybe the gun was capable. In fact, it probably was. I just didn't have it dialed in for 50. It was working fine at 25, which is going to be anything closer to that, so your normal distance, it's just fine. 50 yard, I seem to be shooting over the plates, and I struggled quite a bit to even get the 10-inch plate. Finally managed to get it. Couldn't get the 8. But again, that's me just not having it dialed in, because it was shooting fairly consistent just over the plates. No, not going to get the 10. So right now, maybe not a 50-yard gun, maybe to put a slightly taller front sight on it, although I'm not sure how that would affect 25 yards. You'd think at 50 the 380 would be dropping more, but again, it's got to be the sight plane and so forth. Then we get into comparison on recoil impulse. You'd think that the heavier gun at 31.8 ounces would be the softest shooting gun, but it turned out not to be the case at all. In fact, out of the 3 guns, the Ruger Security 380, the Glock 25, and the Bul Mini Cherokee, the Ruger actually had the lowest felt recoil. And I have no idea to what I could attribute that. Slide has a little less in the way of spring resistance. Makes it easier to run the slide on it. But again, felt recoil on the lightest gun surprised me to be the least felt recoil. The Glock was next least. Again, it's a Glock 19 style with a slightly lower powered mainspring in it. rear recoil spring. But again, the recoil impulse on the Glock felt lighter. And these are all subjective. I didn't weigh anything, just strictly went by feel. And the heaviest gun, which you think would have the lightest felt recoil, had the greatest. So not a great gun to shoot. If you want a 380 with a manual safety on it, that's a heavy enough gun that you'd think that it's going to be easier to shoot, then maybe the Bul is your choice. However, you also get a manual safety on the Security 380. It's not quite as easy to work. It's a little bit smaller. The larger lever on the Bul makes it a little easier to work. But again, hammer-fired gun, probably easier to get sight changes if you wanted to than it would be on the Bul. Quality-wise, they all ran. They ran everything that I put through it. Didn't have any issues at all on function. Just it was interesting to pick it up for the price. And again, this is available. I found it online. There's only one company I found that was selling the Mini Cherokee at all. And they had several of them with 2 magazines and had this one with 3 magazines. Paid a little bit more for it. But again, this is going to be around 400, maybe a little less used. The Glock you can buy new for a little more than 500, well, 500 plus or minus, whereas the Ruger Security 380 is going to be around 300 plus now that they've been on the market for a while. It was an interesting gun to try out, but give me the Glock, or better yet, give me the Ruger Security 380. All right, Bul Armory Mini Cherokee here on 380 Thursday, something that you haven't seen and probably aren't going to see again. Maybe I'll dig it out at some point. Thanks for stopping in.